Let's see how this procedure is usually done. There is the mechanic removing the rear cover. That's where the seal is located inside. This seal often leaks during operation. That seal right there. Internally, it has a static part that stays in the housing on the cover and a rotating part that is attached to the shaft. The specialized magnetic seal component is designed to maintain a constant and reliable sealing effect, which is achieved as the rotating side flexes precisely against the static side through the power of magnetism. Positioned directly between these two critical surfaces, there is a durable layer of carbon material specifically included to withstand the intense friction and heat generated during operation. Now the mechanic is removing the screws from the rear cover, and after he removes the screws, he uses a tool, which he will install in a moment, to pull out the housing, and with the housing, then he installed the tool, a simple tool that can be made. There are just 2 holes there for extraction. He removed it, the housing. Now when he shows it, he will show that shiny part inside. That's the static part, which is attached to the cover. It's held there by interference, and there's an O-ring between the housing and the magnetic seal. Now let's look at the installation of the seal, the removal process. You saw that it's very simple. Now let's move on to the installation of the seal. To install the seal, some precautions are necessary. Initially, there needs to be some preparation. You open the packaging, as the video will show, and you have to do some work. So here it is. The mechanic has the packaging of the new seal, the seal itself, and its 2 parts. They come separated, like with wax paper. He is removing the O-rings. The seal has an O-ring on the static part on the outside and on the rotating part that is on the shaft on the inside. In other words, the interference between the rotating part and the shaft is an O-ring. Get a lubricant there, like a little sachet. Get the lubricant that needs to be used to lubricate this assembly. So what he's doing now is opening the packages. All the packages are there, both O-rings and the seal. He has 3 packages in his hand. He's opening the O-ring package, which is the larger O-ring, the one that goes on the static part, and that smaller O-ring is the one that goes on the shaft. The housing is already there without the static part. Static part. That black tool on the side is the tool we'll see being used to pressurize its rear part. There's a protrusion that's specifically for you to remove the seal during disassembly. Now he's separating the static part from the dynamic part of the package. You can see there's a piece of paper between the two. Before you assemble, you need to apply a service oil to this contact surface between the static part and the rotating part. Now he picked up the part and is putting on the O-ring. He's going to put on the O-ring, and then he'll get that lubricant. There he's opening the lubricant, taking it from the package, and he's going to take this lubricant and apply it to the O-ring. This O-ring, guys, when he puts it into that static part that goes into the housing, when he pushes this O-ring, it will roll up. Then what is he going to do? He will take the whole housing assembly, which is the cover, with the static part of the seal that stays in the cover. And he will use the manual part here to pressurize it from 670 to 700 kPa for 2 minutes. But the mechanic said they would leave him to install the O-ring by himself, so he installed the O-ring. Obviously, there's a bit of residue from the lubricant, but that can be cleaned off later, and now he's doing it by hand. Install the static part into the housing, into the cover. Remember that he is showing that those indications, those markings written there, need to face inward. They cannot face outward, otherwise it will get damaged. Then he will press it in with his fingers, inspect the housing to check for any kind of damage, ovalization, anything, unnecessary wear, irregular wear. Now he is cleaning. The guy is cleaning there to do the installation. There is the tool that applies pressure from 600 to 700 kilopascals. So he will install the static part into the housing. The interference is running. He presses it with his finger and then pushes it in synchronously so that it doesn't go in crooked. On the rear part, the manual says to put a feeler gauge to check if there shouldn't be any play, but they recommend in practice using a piece of paper because the feeler gauge can cause damage or scratch something. So it's installed, and only the inner part, which is the part fitted into the housing, will be placed in the tool. So now he has the pressurization tool in his hand. This tool has 2 sealing O-rings, which are used to force the O-ring to unroll from the cover. So he's already checking the position. The mechanic said that you need to apply some petroleum jelly there before installing it. Another guy went to get the petroleum jelly for the installation, and then comes the part where you pressurize with air to unroll the O-ring. So he's going to assemble the tool. It's very simple. In a moment, even the part with the tool's name will appear, just to mention that again. This is the assembly of the freewheel seal of the RL2 engine. It's very similar to the RL1, but here we're working on the RL2. When checking the tool, making sure it's not dirty, that there's nothing wrong, so what is he going to do? He's going to place the housing with the static ring of the magnetic seal inside the cover. You can't place it on both rings, only with the inner ring. So he put the cover on, testing the position to make sure it's correct. I think he's asking for it. Now, the other guy is bringing him some petroleum jelly so he can apply it. Then, once that step is completed, he is going to carefully assemble the entire tool and securely connect it to a reliable compressed air source. The instruction manual then specifies a waiting period of exactly 2 minutes. You can find this information on page 704 of the manual. It requires 2 minutes at 60 to 704 psi. Now he's going to assemble the housing inside the tool, which is just to pressurize and to unwind the external winding that he forced by hand. To fit it, he's assembling the tool which will seal it. And when the air is forced between the housing and the seal, it unwinds the seal. Because if you don't do this over time, it could stay there. At first it won't leak, but later it will. So he tightened it well. Now he's going to apply air. There is the tool with the housing inside, only with the static side of the magnetic seal inside. The manual calls for 2 minutes at 600 to 700 kilopascals, but we recommended leaving it for 30 minutes. After that, he cleans everything. Then he's going to take the rotating part of the seal, which has an O-ring on the inside that he has already installed. He will take it and it needs to be put in very carefully. So folks, because he has already installed it, it fits there because of the magnetism. If you hit it, you could lose the rim, so you have to put it in very gently. There you see. He touched one edge, then used his hand and gently pressed it in. Can you see that? In the video, a photo is showing up, but you'll see that he's going to put it in with the same care because the housing is already installed there. The housing goes into place with the magnetic seal already mounted in the housing, meaning you'll put it back on the motor with everything already installed in the housing. So he goes there, right? This is a very delicate part. He has to put it in already aligned. If he puts it in misaligned, he can't turn it. If he does turn it, he has to take everything out and do it all over again, and he has to replace that O-ring from the housing. He uses 2 guide screws, and he can't turn it. It has to be installed without turning. If it turns while being fitted, everything has to be removed again. He set it up as a guide and pushes it in all at once. From there, it can't be turned. Now it's just the finishing touches, installing the mounting screws. And for sure, that seal won't leak anymore. That's the procedure for replacing the freewheel seal with the rear engine seal. So at this point, he's going to snug up the screws. Then he'll check the maintenance manual to get the correct torque for these screws before installing them. And the professional installation of the RL2 rear engine seal is now successfully complete. This ensures a proper fit